Okay, this is the Maryland Real Estate License Exam Prep. This is test number 8 from the book, Investment, Taxation, Professional Practices. These are the questions and then followed by the answer. Questions followed by the answer. When an investor has to pay a lender more to finance the investment than the investment property generates in income, the investor suffers from negative leverage. Cost recovery is allowed as a federal tax deduction on income property. A homeowner paid $200,000 for a house 3 years ago. The house sells today for $239,000. How much has the property appreciated? 19.5%. The primary tax benefit in owning a non-income property, such as a residence, is a deduction for mortgage interest. A house sold for $250,000. The seller paid a brokerage commission of 6%, the legal fees of $600, and had other closing costs of $1,500. What net proceeds are from the sale? $232,000. A homeowner bought a house 5 years ago for $150,000. Since then, the homeowner has spent $300,000 to pave a driveway and has added a central heating air conditioning system at a cost of $4,000. And that was $3,000, not $300,000. What is the homeowner's adjusted basis if the house is sold today? $157,000. A homeowner sold her house and realized the net proceeds amount of $210,000. Her adjusted basis in the home was $176,000. She immediately bought another house for $200,000. What was her capital gain? $34,000. After 5 years of owner occupancy, Simon Wilson sells his principal residence for a gain of $150,000, and the next month buys another principal residence that costs more than the adjusted sale price of the home. Which of the following is true of the treatment of the tax on gain? There is no taxable gain after 5 years of occupancy, and that's why. Ralph Roberts buys a small office building as an investment and participates actively in the management and operation of the building. This is an example of direct investment. Elmo Gilmore owns a small retail property that he inherited from his father. There is no mortgage or interest expenses connected with the property. Elmo takes an annual cost recovery expense of $5,000. The property has a monthly gross income of $1,500 and a monthly operating expense of $500. Elmo's taxable income from the property will be taxed at a rate of 30%. What is the tax liability for the year? $2,100. All investors desire their investments to increase in value. However, the more the investor stands to gain, the greater risk that the investor may lose. Two of the financial rewards that investments offer are income and tax benefits. Because a real estate investment can take a long time to sell, real estate investments are considered to be relatively illiquid. Compared to a stock portfolio, a real estate investment would be considered a more management-intensive investment. 6 investors purchase a shopping center. 1 investor manages the tenants and the other handles the marketing and leasing. 2 investors manage accounting and finance, and the remaining 2 run the management office. This is possible example of a general partnership. The formula for determining taxable income produced by an income property is gross income minus expenses minus building depreciation. In deriving taxable income on an investment property, it is generally legal to deduct interest payments from income. Jake does not use any part of his principal residence as a home office. Which of the following is true of the tax treatment of his property? The owner may be able to avoid capital gain tax when the property is sold. An investment property seller pays $14,000 in closing costs. These costs may be deducted from the sale price for gains tax purposes. The formula for calculating capital gain tax is the taxpayer's tax bracket multiplied by the difference between amount realized and adjusted basis. Which of the following entities can legally levy annual real property taxes? A tax district. Certain classes of property owner and types of property are exempt or immune from the real property taxation in many areas. The protected categories usually include properties owned by a government agency, what is the purpose of equalization factor in an ad valorem taxation? It adjusts assessments in a locality to make them more consistent with an average level for the state or other higher level jurisdiction. A school district tax rate is 10 mills. The school district required revenue from real estate taxes is $20,000. What is the tax basis of the area? And it's $2 million. So it's 10 mills times 20,000. A homeowner receives a tax bill that includes an amount for the library district taxed at $1 per 1,000, and the fire protection district taxed $2 per 1,000. How much does the taxpayer have to pay for those 2 items if the property taxable value is $147,000? $441. A town is replacing a sidewalk that serves 5 homes. A town is replacing a sidewalk that serves 5 homes. The length of the sidewalk is 200 feet. Mary's property has 38 feet of front footage. If the cost of the property to be paid by a special assessment is $30,000, what will Mary's assessment be? $5,700. What is a tax deed? A conveyance instrument for property that is sold to enforce a tax lien. Tax deed is basically a mortgage. A conveyance instrument for property that is sold to enforce a tax lien. If a property owner has the right to redeem his or her property after a tax sale, the owner has a statutory right of redemption. The formula for deriving a municipal jurisdiction ad valorem tax basis is the total of all assessed values of properties minus exemptions. A homeowner's total tax bill is derived by multiplying each district's tax rate times the taxable value of the property. The fair housing law that first protected people against discrimination in housing based on race was the Civil Rights Act of 1866. The classes protected against discrimination by Fair Housing Act of 1968 are race, color, religion, and national origin. An agent is committing an act of discriminatory advertising by doing which of the following? Advertising a property as available to individuals of a particular race. Which of the following is an example of blockbusting? An agent persuades a family to put their house on the market because ethnic minority families are beginning to move into the neighborhood. The practice of redlining is specifically prohibited by the Home Mortgage Disclosure Act. The practice of redlining is specifically prohibited by the Home Mortgage Disclosure Act, not the Real Estate Settlement Procedure Act, not the Civil Rights Act of 1866, not the Americans with Disabilities Act. Title 5, 6, 7, 8. Title 8 of the Civil Rights Act of 1968 applies to the sale of privately owned single-family residences listed with the broker. A broker signs a listing agreement to sell a home for $200,000. An immigrant couple are interested in the housing and ask the agent's price. The agent states the price at $210,000. According to the fair housing laws, such an action is illegal because the agent changed the terms of the sale to discourage this particular couple. Which of the following actions is allowed under federal housing law? The owner of a duplex who resides in one of the units refuses to rent to the other unit to a non-Christian. Cecil Longstreet believes the real estate agent has kept her from seeing a certain property for rent because she is a woman. What action should she take if she wants legal satisfaction for her complaint? File the complaint with HUD and or file suit against the offending parties in a state or federal court within the prescribed time period. George Scott hires Shannon Lang to sell his house with the condition that he will not be the first one in the neighborhood to sell to members of a certain ethnic group. What Shannon do about this condition? Inform Scott that the condition is illegal and that she cannot comply with it. Under federal fair housing laws, the owner of a 10-unit apartment building may legally require families without children to pay the same security deposit the families with children must pay. Sam Gow wants to rent out his home, but wants to exclude families with children because of his belief that they are causing damage. Under what conditions would federal fair housing law allow Goff to rent on these terms? It is a single-family house, and the owner owns only one other rental home in addition to his own residence. Which of the following laws or rulings extended discrimination to include gender, handicap status, and family status? The Fair Housing Amendments Act of 1988. The Wallaces, a minority family, would like to buy a home in a certain price range. Agent Ambrose shows the family all available properties in a neighborhood of families with similar backgrounds. Ambrose does not mention a number of homes in the family's price range. In other neighborhoods, this agent could be liable for steering. An agent does not like a particular minority buyer and is very short with the person, refusing to engage in lengthy conversation or show him any properties. A second minority party visits the office the next day. The agent is very forthcoming and shows the person 5 prospective properties. This agent could be liable for providing unequal services. Following the client's recommendation, an agent conceals the availability of a property from an unemployed but pregnant and unmarried minority woman. This agent could be liable for discriminatory misrepresentation by omission. When must a property condition disclosure statement be used? Prior to the sale of an occupied 1 to 4 unit dwelling. If a single-family resident has listed her property with a licensee, the seller's property conditions disclosure form must still be completed according to local requirements. Which of the following would be a non-material fact that would not have to be included in the seller's property condition disclosure form? A previous occupant died in the house. And that is the end of chapter 8.